What's up, guys? It's CTD. I'm killing two birds with one stone real quick. First and foremost, I'm testing out this wireless microphone that we just got because we have some fun content coming that we need wireless microphones for, especially SummerSlam weekend. So make sure you're subscribed, have notifications turned on, subscribe, or you are a coward. Second, I'm coming on here to tell you that your boy fucked up. The podcast you're about to watch or listen to, I may or may not have changed the audio source. We plugged our podcast mics in. I forgot to change it so that it is the source that the mics come through. It's through my MacBook. It doesn't sound great. I know. My bad. Blame me. Shame, shame, shame. Shame us. Leave Snowden alone. That's on me. But try to enjoy the podcast because there's funnier moments. I am very mad that I messed this up because of some moments that are in it that are hilarious. So enjoy it. Watch it, subscribe. If not, you're a coward. See ya. C2Wrestling Podcast. The boys are back in person, chopping it up. Podcasts are just so much better doing it in person compared to on Zoom. Like, don't get me wrong, it's still fun on Zoom. We still have a good time. But being in person and being able to ask Snowden, how you doing today, buddy?
How am I doing today? I am doing A-okay. Better than I have been doing. I tell you that. So I'm doing all right. We're here. We're alive. It is C2 Wrestling, the podcast, as you said, in person. It's incredible in person. You know, we've been waiting so long to do whatever we can together in video, in person. And again, nothing against doing things online. We love doing it regardless, but it's a different vibe when we're here together.
You know, we're still under a year in this new channel, and we think of all these new ideas and stuff like that. But I think back to around the summertime when the channel was still pretty fresh, and I came back home. We're like, let's bank some videos. Let's record some videos. We got some topics we want to talk about, and we just have this microphone in between us talking, and it's like. It's like those videos are still fun. I mean, look, we probably would have been talking about those same exact things when we were hanging out. But it's like this channel is now serving as almost like a time capsule where it's like, all right, that's where, we first started with this. Then we got to that. Now we're here doing a pod in person with these two mics. Then I started thinking, when we get to SummerSlam, we're going to have some on the street wireless microphone stuff, whatever. I was talking to the honorary Oos yesterday, and I was like, maybe not a year from now, or maybe closer to 2 years from now, I would like to buy a setup where we can have 4 or 5 mics. So when we have a big get together again, we can record some podcasts where it's all of us with an individual microphone chopping it up. So I'm not rushing life to get to that point, but I told them, I was like, oh, I really hope one day, and I stopped myself. I said, no. I can't wait for the day that we do these things.
Yeah, that day is going to come. For all those people that have been tuned into C2 Wrestling from the beginning, from about SummerSlam 2024, you get to see the evolution. Evolution is a mystery. The evolution of C2 Wrestling, one step at a time. And it's been nothing but a blast. I do like looking back at those older videos, and then we're going to go look back at this video one day and see kind of the upgrades that have been made. Equipment placement, and just also too, like, we've done this in the past, but and we love wrestling. We're just talking here. This is no different than if this camera wasn't on, but we've become more natural in it, I guess, too. Like, it really is interesting to go see those early videos of where we are now and where we will be in 2 years.
It is funny you mentioned it's WrestleMania weekend right now where we're recording this, by the way, and we were live for night one. And we did the post show, and you mentioned like, oh, there's a few moments there that other people would edit out for sure.
Yeah.
And like, that's just not our style. And like, I hope other people like the kind of long form, like just authentic. Don't get me wrong. There's been times one of us have said something like just wild to each other, and we're like, let's edit that out, like or we say something like personal, and we're like, oh, we should cut that out just to be safe or something like that. But I love like the podcast, I want it to be, it's got to be outrageous that we got to cut it, we're not going to offend anybody or anything like that.
Of course.
But we're just authentic. It's always going to be real. It's always going to be genuine.
You guys are getting the real cuts of C2 Wrestling, Fab Reactions, the whole crew. It is us hanging out. We can't say it enough. It would be the same exact thing going down without a camera. It's just us hanging out, watching wrestling, shooting the shit, and it is nothing but a blast, man. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, it's a total blast. What's even funnier when we hang out, we often discuss topics like the one we're going to discuss in today's podcast. We go into hypotheticals. We go into would you rathers,
Yeah,
but we also go into what we do a lot on this channel. Put on that fantasy booking cap. Let's start spitballing. Who's gonna do what? Who could do what? Who should they be doing better with? And not only is it fun to do, but it's also fun to have it in recording because we have moments that we genuinely forget about, i.e., our FAP reactions Q&A.
yeah,
And look, I know I held this opinion, but I didn't even remember on camera saying Cody Rhodes is underutilized. Like this guy could be the face of a company. And look at where we end up coming a few
yeah,
years later.
yeah.
It's like that's why I love doing these spitballing videos or things like this that end up on camera and they either look really fucking bad or great.
But that's the fun of it, is it looking bad or great? And it's just so funny how this all started for us, dating back to Fab Reactions, AJ Styles, Royal Rumble debut. That was simply, let's throw a camera up to see how we react if anything goes down. There was obviously rumors of Styles, so that was a possibility. There was never a debut in the Rumble to that point like that. So,
No.
you couldn't have locked that in. But let's just throw a camera up, see how we react. Somebody said, fuck it, upload it. We upload it. Look at us now. It just worked out for us. It is so fun to be able to go relive those moments. Anything we've recorded, honestly. I have a blast doing
Yeah, some of the takes I go back and I'm like, ooh.
it.
Like for instance, I mentioned we're recording this Mania Night One, was last night.
Yeah.
I went 1 for 6, and like, don't get me wrong, in my head, and even in our prediction video, I'm saying some things, and even you guys are like, "Damn, that could happen,"
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's like you play it out in your head, you say it out loud, and you kind of convince yourself of it, and then the total opposite happens, and it's
Yeah.
like, look, a lot of times, especially with WrestleMania, you can see it going either way. Like, especially when it happens, you obviously have hindsight at that point. But like the triple threat main event of Punk Roman Rollins, there was really no outcome I was gonna be like genuinely shocked that person won.
100%. I really think that was one of those that any outcome could have happened. Roman, Punk, Rollins win. Heyman assists any of the three guys or nobody, and I'm happy. The only thing I think that could have made me go, is if, like, I don't know, there was some sort of outside interference, but clearly there was no way for that to happen. Just when it made sense. It really is crazy, man. Just being here again in person, being able to react live to WrestleMania again. If you haven't checked it out, go back and check it out. There's probably a lot more content because this probably ain't releasing for a little while. So go back and check all the videos out. But
Yeah, as I've mentioned, your boy will be overseas for about over 5 weeks. So we're gonna try to bank some funny pods, some good chatting, and today, as you can tell by the title, we're talking future champions, not just WWE champions. It could be any title. And we want to talk about wrestlers who haven't won a title.
first time champions.
Yep, and there's a chance that someone may have won that title in the, what is it, about 5 weeks, six
Until you
weeks
go away. Yeah.
until, in that time frame by the time this releases. We'll take that gamble. I know I'm going to talk about some more obscure
Yeah, me
people
too.
during this where it's probably less likely, but we want to focus on any championship. Who could we see winning a title? And I got one right away.
Okay.
The first person to pop in my mind
Yeah.
was actually a tag team.
Okay. Yeah.
I think after seeing the short little spurt of, man, there's something there, and then they kind of pulled back, and then a short spurt of, man, there's something there, and then they kind of pulled back. I think we are pretty close to a pretty deadly tag team title run.
Absolutely. I had two names come to mind, three if you want to get technical, because one of them was pretty deadly a
Yeah.
tag team. And I think that is happening within the next matter of months, and they deserve a tag title run. I think Pretty Deadly is fantastic, great gimmick, good in the ring. They've been in the mix leading into WrestleMania with all the other SmackDown tag teams. Unfortunately, didn't find themselves on the card, but that is okay. If you had to name any tag team that is probably the next champions, Pretty Deadly is up there for me.
Yeah, and this, as we mentioned, like this is people who've never
Never.
won
Yeah.
titles. So like
DIY might win them again.
exactly, the tag team TLC is on Friday at the time of this recording, which Mystic Chris gonna time travel front and back. The match rules. Wow. Yeah. Crazy you saw it here first. Uh DIY could win it there, the machine guns could win it back right
Yeah.
there. So, kind of avoiding that aspect. When we first mentioned this topic, I'm glad we went with people to win a championship that haven't won it. But I want to ask you, are we ruling out, is it, are we going with just people who've never won titles or that specific title? But I
Just
think
people that have never won titles,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So there's like the problem is like I can predict somebody winning the IC title, but they're on SmackDown and they win the US, you know. So I guess it could be
yeah.
kind of any championship. Um, yeah, either way. We're mentioning tag teams right now, but I mentioned as well, I had one name that immediately came to mind for me. And this is a big one for me. I'm sure it is for you. It's not quite around right now, but he'll be back soon. I need a 1, 2, 3 Intercontinental title win after a big tsunami, man. Big Bronson Reed needs a championship when he comes back.
I'm not gonna lie. It might not need to be the Intercontinental
It might
Championship.
need to be that World
It
Heavyweight
might need to be
Championship,
that World Heavyweight
baby.
Championship. I'm not gonna lie, man.
No, I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree.
Look, I love Bronson Reed, and
Yeah.
obviously, if I'm saying he should win the heavyweight championship instead of the Intercontinental, uh, we are in a much better spot though with these mid card titles that winning the United States Championship or the Intercontinental Championship is not the I don't want to say negative that it once was,
Yeah.
but it is a propeller because you look at Gunther's title reign,
Yeah.
completely established him instantly. Jey Uso winning the Intercontinental title and then dropping it, like, all right, he got that taste of gold. He's still trying to chase it, whatever.
I booked it.
Yeah, you did. Braun Breaker Intercontinental title reign,
Yeah.
like completely establishing the title. Then you go over to the U.S. title side, which has had its ups and downs, but LA Knight being a two-time U.S. champion, like that is one of the prominent guys on the show on every week. Jacob Fatu's first singles title is the United States Championship. Like that is another strong championship. So to keep the ball rolling with guys who haven't won titles, I should have specified we are specifically talking about the main roster, of course,
Yes.
because Pretty Deadly were the NXT and NXT UK tag team champions.
Correct.
But one other person that came to mind after Pretty Deadly, and it does shift back to the mid card.
Okay.
He's the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal winner. And it's not far fetched. Carmelo Hayes would win the tag titles with The Miz because that is like oh so WWE
Yeah.
to have The Miz win the tag titles again with another random partner would be like his millionth tag title reign. But at the least, I would love a United States Championship run from Carmelo Hayes. Maybe, you know, I'm not saying he's got to pin Jacob Fatu, but maybe it is that multi-man match, and that's where Solo kind of screws over Jacob with a distraction or a turn or whatever it may be, and Carmelo Hayes pins, I don't know, Dragon Lee. Yeah, I'm just naming someone random, but
I mean, Fatu definitely fits the bill to be a guy that when he loses the belt, to lose it in like a multi-man kind of fashion. And
yes,
I mean, Carmelo Hayes, man, I mean, ain't no hating, but he's the best there. You
yeah,
know, that's it. Carmelo Hayes definitely is another name that came to mind for me to win a title. And that is a guy that we have talked over this weekend, has a slower trajectory, but a massive amount of potential. You know, he is not the guy, in my opinion. Don't get me wrong. I want him to win a world championship. But I don't think he should go win Money in the Bank this year without having a mid-card title run before it, maybe even a tag title run, or just another big, bold feud before you kind of propel him. You know, I mentioned Bronson Reed, who's a guy that I absolutely agree, World Heavyweight Championship. We also talked over this weekend about some wrestlers that are the type of wrestler that you do push right to a world championship. We referenced Sheamus being one of those guys that immediately won a world championship. Obafemi comes to mind as a guy like that. Bronson Reed is one of those guys. You have him attack Seth Rollins in that big push of his, put on some great matches, gets into the Bloodline War Games match, unfortunately gets injured, but you got to imagine his trajectory for WrestleMania was probably up there. He was probably making the card this year, perhaps in one of these multi-man mid-card title matches. Carmelo Hayes, not quite on the WrestleMania card this year, wins the Andre Battle Royal. Bring out your shovels. My boy is buried, as all those Twitter fans were saying. You just got to wait and let these things happen naturally. Carmelo Hayes and The Miz, again, as of right now, are a tag team to a point. I think the trajectory for Carmelo is for that tag team to ride a little bit, but at a point, The Miz isn't going to be getting the job done, and Carmelo's going to peel off of him a little bit. And hopefully that puts him into a bit of a singles push. The rosters on both sides, Raw and SmackDown, are so deep and so good. You can have mid card feuds that are worthy of being world championship feuds.
Yeah,
Fatu versus Carmelo, that could be for a world championship in a couple of years.
yeah.
Carmelo Hayes, IC title, US title, either or, absolutely needs to win a championship.
I mean, it's similar to when they only had one heavyweight championship and it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
on every week. And the men's US championship was the championship.
Yep.
Seth Rollins winning it. It was main eventing the show every week. Theory cashing in on, which I know awful, but that was the focal point.
Yeah.
We've teetered with that being a thing and that not being a thing. And it's going to bring me to my next person, which
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say him before you say him because I know we're on the same page with this guy.
Let's hear it.
But
Natalia.
yes, um, I would like, the Intercontinental Championship. We've mentioned hot potatoing titles a little bit
Yeah,
and then getting that long title reign because it is tough to go from long title reign to long title reign to long title reign.
it is.
Don't get me wrong, I do like it a bit with like the WWE Championship, but the Intercontinental Championship, I would love for like a slight hot potato a little bit.
Yeah,
Braun Breaker's been the champion for a little bit going into WrestleMania.
you can move on to different things. Yeah.
At this point, who knows? Braun Breaker could be facing Jey Uso
For the world title.
for the world title a week before this at Backlash. Who knows?
Yeah.
I would like a little bit of the hot potato with the IC title to then culminate with a very long title run where the IC title goes back to being like the workhorse title, and that's done by a guy who's not back yet. That's Ilya Dragunov.
I absolutely knew that's where you were going, and that is absolutely another name that came to mind for me. Ilya Dragunov not only is a guy that should win a championship, like you say, when he does come back, he is the guy that should be the workhorse type champion. He's the guy that should be defending the title every week, almost every week, matches every week, open challenges this, great feuds, great rivalries. Another guy that unfortunately injured throughout the year was getting a pretty decent push early on. Maybe would have found himself doing something this WrestleMania as well. But again, injuries, you can't really plan them. Ilya has everything. He, alongside Carmelo, is one of those guys, total package. Dating all the way back to his UK. I know NXT UK wasn't watched by everybody, but there are some bangers in there from Ilya. We've seen him wrestle in person. We saw his Raw debut in person, unexpected, but that was a fantastic moment. Ilya Dragunov is a guy, though, as well, gets a mid-card title first. I want him to get a workhorse title run. Him as IC champion, I want him to have a similar run to Gunther with the IC title.
Yeah, completely agree. I don't want him to pass Gunther,
Yeah, agreed.
but I want it to be like
Get close.
he's kind of getting close.
Mhm.
He's not too far away, and maybe like another guy who hasn't won a title yet. A Ludwig Kaiser is the one who cheats to beat him to save Gunther's record, something along those lines.
There's another name that should win a championship right there. Our
Yeah.
boy Ludwig, man. Put him on the WrestleMania card.
Yeah.
I know this already happened to the people watching this. Rewind time, put him on the WrestleMania
Yeah.
card. That's another great name, though. Ludwig Kaiser. I was gonna say just real quick, Ilya, Gunther is now a guy that like he's main eventer. He's world
Yes.
championship, WWE championship level. But I wouldn't even hate if Ilya, 500 and something days in, lost it to Gunther again. Maybe you get another Gunther IC title run somewhere in there. But regardless, Bronson Reed, pretty deadly. Ilya Dragunov, Carmelo Hayes. That's four names already. Thinking of a different name. Thinking of a woman, actually.
I was gonna give a
Yeah,
woman
I'm going to
next
go
as
with a
well.
woman. This woman is a champion,
It's probably the same woman I was thinking.
but deserves a higher tier championship.
Yep.
You got to put that world heavyweight championship strap on Chelsea Green, man.
Oh,
You got
that's
it.
not what I was thinking.
Really interesting. Where
I
are you
do
going?
agree. I do agree.
Okay.
We'll talk about Chelsea Green before I
Yeah.
get to mine. Uh, I do agree. Now, harping on it, Mania Night 2 is about to happen tonight. So who knows? Maybe she's an impromptu match. I don't think so. She's filed in like as much as we are like, not everyone should be on the Mania card. Keep the prestige. There's already too many multi-person matches. It's like for us, it's one female, one male that it's like, this is a shame. It's Ludwig and it's Chelsea Green. Like those are the two
Yep.
that should have been on. What is kind of interesting is with this character that she is established,
Yeah.
Chelsea Green, essentially the face of America, Kevin Owens gimmick, as he joked,
Hmm.
with her secret Hervis. I do believe it could lead to a championship title run,
I agree.
but it fits best with this United States title.
It is. That's the only problem with like the trio of her, Alba Fire, and Piper Niven is that it's the U.S. title gimmick. So maybe she loses the U.S. title, and maybe it's no longer the Secret Harvest. Maybe they change the name of the group, something. I don't know. But in the current gimmick of her having two kind of like lackeys, for better words, I think a heel Chelsea Green run. Listen, I'm not going to say it's maybe the one that should run until Mania. But there's an off season within wrestling a bit, and you want hot things to go on. You need some feuds that are going to be great. A heel championship run by Chelsea with the baby face. I don't know. I know she's heel right now, but Roxanne eventually. Somebody like that getting that big win over Chelsea, getting their first championship win. I think could be a great moment. Chelsea Green has been amongst the best women going, really. And this U.S. title run, I want to continue for a while, but eventually she'll lose it. And I hope they just don't keep her in that mid kind of mix. She's got the ability to go a level above.
What'd be hilarious is while she's United States champion, they do some little story or whatever that there's like an upcoming election.
Hmm.
Like, but it's really just like her opponent is, who's going to be the nominee is Chelsea Green's opponent, who's
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
be in the election, whatever.
yeah.
Maybe you do it like Fourth of July weekend, something
Yeah,
around there, like something along those lines. Like I know that's not the election date, but still.
still, yeah.
And you have a babyface American, maybe like a Roxanne or whatever. Like,
Mhm.
it could be a Sol Ruca for all we
Yeah,
know. Like just the white meat baby face. I know Roxanne's a heel, but
yeah.
you get
She'll
what
be
I'm
a
saying.
face again
Yeah,
eventually,
you
yeah.
get what I'm saying. And that leads to, you know, how she loses it. Maybe it's even the opposite. Chelsea loses her title,
Hmm.
and the election story is her trying to get elected as the number one contender
Yeah,
to
yeah,
get her
definitely.
title back.
Yeah.
She wants a second term, something like that. To keep it on the women though, I do also have a woman in mind who also is a champion.
Hmm.
And I think this is one of the few where we have to think back to Paige.
Hmm.
And I am not joking. I would completely probably sprain my wrist with how quick I would sign on the dotted line if you told me Stephanie Becerra debuts and wins the world championship on her first night.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If there's, she's got a similar, like, for a female, but similar to Obafemi, win the championship.
Yep.
No ifs, ands, or buts. You put a strap on her, kind of as soon as you can. I have that weird feeling that she's gonna debut to like an unreal pop. You know, she's got that feeling to her or an aura to her right now that really is, it happens sometimes in wrestling, but it's not super common. Something about Stephanie really feels special down in NXT. I hope she's not down there too long. I kind of want her involved in the main roster. There's again such an influx of talent coming up from NXT that would also help NXT develop a little bit to put her on the main roster. But Stephanie, absolutely. World title or the WWE Women's Championship. Maybe it's not on the first day she's on Raw or SmackDown, but maybe she wins a tournament in that first, week or two and gets her first title match at the PLE that's upcoming and wins the belt there. I think she's somebody that you put the strap on sooner rather than later.
For sure. I mean, when they announced the acquisition of AAA,
Mhm.
they had this big setup. Triple H is on stage, and a bunch of Spanish talent
Yep.
on the stage. Rey Mysterio's on the stage. Penta's on the stage.
Mhm.
Triple H is running through the names, saying who's, oh, Andrade's over my shoulder.
Yeah.
He says Stephanie's name, and the crowd keeps chanting for Stephanie.
Yeah.
Triple H was trying to get to announcing Vikingo being there, which is
Yeah.
already insane. Like that is
Massive.
that
Yeah.
is an insane thing. But the crowd is so focused on Stephanie.
Yeah.
Like she was up there with names. I mean, look, I can just say Rey Mysterio and the list
Yeah.
ends there, but it somehow is even massive names as well. But the crowd was just hyper fixated on her. Like she has it.
She has
And
it.
you go through the women's roster in NXT and the current roster, like there's obviously it's the most talented it's ever been. It's the
Mhm.
most star power
Mhm.
it's ever been. But sometimes there's just some that even though they're technically on the same playing field, like Stephanie, Julia, Jordan Grace, some of those names,
Zarya.
Zarya, they're
Yeah.
kind of like they're all in the same mix. But Stephanie just feels like she's one step above them.
She
That's
does.
the difference maker.
She does.
She should be a day one champ.
She really should be. I think her and Jordan Grace are maybe in a more similar boat than like nothing against Julia. Julia's fantastic, but I do kind of hold Stephanie and say Jordan a little bit ahead of her right now. I would love to see Julia be world champion one day too, but Stephanie, I think again, you put the strap on her sooner rather than later. I'm glad you mentioned the AAA acquisition because it really was that. There's people out there that are legends and nobody saw Vikingo coming. That's like in the world of wrestling, if you're a deep wrestling fan, that's a shocker seeing Vikingo there. Nobody gave a shit because Stephanie was there, though, and that's crazy to think.
Yeah, I mean, that is just next level
Yeah,
star power. But one of the names that I wanted to mention, and like, look, we could technically just name every person that's not won a
yeah,
championship and
yeah,
like, hey, they got a good chance at winning.
yeah.
But one name that we have to talk about, and I have no idea when this podcast comes out where this person's going to be.
Yeah.
I have no idea storyline wise where this person's going to be,
I
who
think
they're
it
going
might
to
be
be
the same
feuding
name
with.
I have in my head. Yeah.
And I don't know if this person's going to be one person or two people.
Okay.
But we desperately need, whether it's El Grande Americano or Chad Gable, you want to talk about long overdue. Hindsight's 2020. I won't cave into the haters that Chad should have been the guy to beat
Mhm.
Gunther just because of how many people say it and how up in arms they get about it, and it's
Yeah.
like annoying. But he probably should be Gunther.
Yeah, it is one of those things where, in hindsight, I think it's easier to say it in hindsight because the Sammy IC title run wasn't really anything, and
Yeah.
Sammy's an incredible talent, don't get me wrong, but not much really came out of that. So maybe that was the chance to really establish somebody like Gable. But if he did it, we wouldn't have El Grande Americano right now.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have him in this maybe even better trajectory that he's in right now. So it is tough to say. Gable, El Grande Americano, though, absolutely from here on out. I would go IC title or US title personally to start, but similar to the Ilya title run, that's a workhorse type run. He should be running with that title for a while.
So I just had to throw it into a Google Translate, but before we started recording, we talked about El Grande being in a tournament for number one contender for the speed title.
Yeah, yeah.
How hilarious would it be? Who knows? He may have won it or not won it by now. But if he won the speed title and changed it to Spanish, Velocidad or however it's pronounced, and it's like it's not a brand new title, but it's just like written in tape and taped
Yeah,
over the word speed because that's all the title is. Like
yeah.
that would be so funny. And like they very rarely have that title on the actual show.
Yeah.
He
I
shows up
mean,
with it, like, comfortable
shit.
viewers there.
On that topic, maybe you have him win the U.S. championship and change it to the Mexico championship.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
like
yeah.
maybe you have him do something like that.
Or
That'd be great.
throw a golfing US on
Yeah, exactly.
there.
I mean, I've said Ludwig should absolutely win the U.S. title at some point and change it to the European Championship. I think that's great as well. But something about Grande Americano doing that, I think, would be great. That actually, even though that is a name that I 100% agree, that wasn't the name I was thinking of to get a solo title run. Because the name I'm thinking of to get a solo title run is Solo Sikoa. That's a guy, man.
That's crazy that
He worked his ass off.
yeah, he hasn't had any title
He's
runs.
worked his ass off. He did have a North American Championship title run.
Yeah, but I'm
But
talking
still,
main
main roster,
roster.
yes, yeah. From his NXT debut, which was a quick call up to the main roster, with the bloodline, left the bloodline, new bloodline, especially the whole year of 2024. Solo Sikoa was the main event until when? The Rumble?
Pretty much.
He was the main event guy until 2 months pre-Mania. And you get a guy like Jacob Fatu. Absolutely love Jacob Fatu. Couldn't be happier that he's U.S. champion. I wanted him to win the U.S. title. I wanted him in the U.S. title match at WrestleMania. But man, he stole that spot from Solo. I think that was supposed to be the Solo Sikoa spot. And Fatu just got so naturally over with his ability, his charisma, his look, everything, that it ends up going to Fatu. Again, this might be a little longer after that title win, so maybe Solo wins the belt from Fatu within this time frame. You never know. But Solo, I find a similar boat in how we've talked about Seth Rollins. He deserves his moment. He deserves his flowers at a point. And I don't think it has to be the world championship, but Solo Sikoa should absolutely get a mid-card title run.
I think unless it's him beating Jacob Fatu for the US title, it should be a world championship.
I could see it. I could see it. Yeah, he is. I guess he is one of those guys that he's been around long enough and done enough with the main guys, the Roman Reigns, the Codys, and all that, that you could push him right into, say, a world championship. I don't understand the Solo hate that's out there.
I was just about to get into
I
that.
don't understand it at all.
Let's take a minute.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure there's people watching right now that aren't Solo fans.
Sikoa.
Yeah, I'm sure there are. I find it outrageous.
Yeah.
Like, some people don't really split your dislike for this person
That's
is
right.
because of how they're being used compared to like who they actually are. For instance, I'll see the slander of Solo because he came back and randomly got a match against Cody out of nowhere again for the title. People were up in arms about it. Like, it's not his fault that he was booked that way.
Yeah.
I think Solo falls into the category that we've talked about, where like you guys just don't appreciate this guy. Like, he is great, and what would grind my gears is when people would see him be hilarious. They're like, "Oh wow, Solo's actually funny." It's like, yeah, he's been doing this the whole time.
He's been incredible the entire time. Even back in NXT before he was called up, like there was a feeling about him. It was, oh, he's going to do great things, and obviously we look at him. He's clearly an Uso, I mean,
Yeah, you're not lying.
evidently an Uso. So okay, there's going to have some ties there. When he does get called up, maybe he's involved, and they brought him in sooner rather than later, and it was the right move to bring him up that early too, because it worked. Post WrestleMania 40. Did anybody out there really think that Solo wasn't going to be in that role? I thought it was like pretty obvious that Solo was going to step into that role, be the number one contender, not really win the championship, but be the main event guy to go against Cody for a while and all this, and the War Game spot and everything. And Solo loses against Roman. There's no more bloodline. What does Solo do next? I haven't really done much with him since, unfortunately. I do think he'll again get involved with this Fatu stuff, but he's not even involved and I still see people hate him. He's not even that involved anymore.
It's
It's
outrageous.
outrageous. And I like, I've said this to people about like any facet of things I'm into, like whether it's wrestling or sports or TV, whatever. Like, I appreciate people that can, like, say, have a dislike towards somebody, but still respect and understand their ability and their level of talent and where they should be on the card. It's one thing to be like, I don't like this guy. I'm not the biggest fan, but I mean, he's pretty fucking good. Can't deny it. Solo is great. That is a heel right there. He's not doing backflips and moonsaults and all that shit. I get it. But that is a great heel that deserves a great heel run. Honestly, he's got that funny bone in him. He could be a great face, I think, too. I really think
For
he could.
sure.
Yeah.
He's kind of similar to Jimmy.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Like I know I've seen clips of the Usos talk about like who's the funniest brother, and
Say
like
Jimmy, yeah.
they say Jimmy, but then they say like Solo's hilarious too, and like
Yeah.
you could see like their humor is very similar. Jimmy also should get a shout. You know, he's been
Yes.
tag team champion,
Yeah.
but getting a singles title run at some point would be good for Big Jim. Uh, one thing I think about with Solo is you know how in wrestling you ever see like wrestlers mention they say, oh, you know that it's crazy when you do something and you realize like, oh, I'm getting the same reaction doing something that isn't as painful or whatever, so I don't need to do this anymore. Like
Yeah.
Mustafa Ali, I saw say it. He was hitting the like the reverse
450.
the reverse 450, and he started just doing a regular 450 and was getting the same reaction from the crowd.
Yeah.
He's like, this is way safer, way easier. I'm just gonna start doing that.
Yeah.
I would love to hear how funny the voice memo Solo probably sent to the Usos and Roman of him being like, man, I should have been wearing shoes this whole fucking time. I should have been wearing shoes this whole time. My feet were fucking killing me,
Yeah,
man.
you know, I gotta say the wrestling in no boots, no shoes, it's gotta be tough to do. I loved the look though for Solo.
Yeah.
It was a great look. I'm so happy. It took so long though when he started wearing knee pads and boots for them to like adjust his entire attire. Like,
Yes.
it looked so awkward for a minute. It just didn't fit, you
His
know.
knee pads were
Were
like,
mega,
yeah.
mega. They looked delicious, but they were so big. You know?
Man, if that was on a Jax action figure,
Oh,
that was
oh man.
that's honestly forget watching like Gordon Ramsay cooking videos. You show me a still frame of those bad boys, and I'm giving them the dice roll, popping
Oh,
them like
man.
like a couple M&Ms.
That's so fucking funny. You know, I am glad that he officially adjusted his attire. It looks more natural now. It fits Solo great. The boots are fine. I've gotten past it, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is so much safer though too. You look at a guy like Rusev. Rusev started wearing wrestling shoes because he broke his ankle
Yeah,
wrestling without them, and they're all taped up short. You know, the tape makes it a little bit stiffer, and then they safe as wrestling boots.
yeah, for
The only
sure.
person that's like never going to change it, I guess, is Riddle.
Yeah, and I mean, he's also the type of person that just never wears shoes in life.
Yeah, it's
So
literally,
his
yeah,
like
yeah.
feet are so calloused
Yeah, he's
that
like that guy from the Dual Survivor or whatever it is. Dual Survivor that just walks around in all these places without wearing shoes. I don't know if you've ever seen that show, but oh my
no.
God, it, like you build up, like
Yeah.
his feet are built
I
up.
was thinking of Mac Hollins, the
Oh yeah, yeah,
we guys
yeah,
too.
yeah. He's out there.
Yeah. Also, put fucking socks on.
Yeah, put some fucking socks on.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're being ridiculous.
Yeah. Put some fucking socks on, and I don't fucking see your feet anyway. Fucking
Yeah,
like, come on.
yeah.
I don't want to hear that it's more comfortable.
It's
I
not-
don't want to hear that. I know Solo is like, oh, thank God,
Thank God. Yeah,
thank God.
And like, you know, it's got to be so much easier. Forget like breaking your ankle like Rusev, like running around the ring and stubbing your toe on the stairs or something.
Oh,
You know, like that's
man.
got to be so rough. And like you're falling off the ropes and things and just landing on your toes straight down or something. Like the ability of injury is a lot higher. But you know, Solo in boots, I love his look. You know, I love that once he kind of got into the bloodline thing too, he started, dressing a bit better, has a
Yeah.
little bit more style to him. They're making him a more overall character. When he was Roman's lackey, really, he was quiet. Didn't have the mic a lot, was the bodyguard,
Yeah.
He's got a bit more of a character to him now. I think Solo is incredible.
Again, we don't know where we're gonna be when this podcast releases, but wouldn't it be a great heel moment and the crowd would be pissed? Maybe not because they're fickle, but if Solo was the one to take the title off his own brother.
Let's book that. That's a good one. That's a good one.
I know the story is him and Jacob
Yeah.
and all this, but what if they didn't?
How do you like? Here's the thing. Jay is so over, despite however many dislikes are on that fucking world title win. I don't care. Jay is over the moon. How do you get him more over? You have the biggest heel take that title off him, and that could be Solo. Obviously, there's John Cena as the biggest heel, but as like an opposer, Solo Sikoa is the heel to Jey Uso potentially. That could be a great moment, actually. I think I want that to happen.
Yeah, and it's like I obviously want the payoff of Solo and Jacob, but in a weird way, I almost don't, just for the fact that I don't want to say I can't like realistically see Solo beating Jacob,
Yeah,
but I mean, people are gonna hate this.
let's hear it.
He's almost has to beat Jacob
Yeah, I agree. I think
for like
for him, for Solo.
for the sake of their futures.
But well, here's the thing too. People are going to hate that, but I'm not saying he has to pin Jacob clean.
Of course, yeah,
Exactly.
of
Come in,
course.
I poke him a time or two, pull the tights, put your feet on the ropes, hit him with the chair, hit him with the belt. There is absolutely an avenue in which Solo could win the title off of Fatu. That might be best case scenario, to be honest. I do like the idea of Tama Tonga and Tongaloa when they return, kind of more so siding with Fatu, and them kind of being a trio. I think
Yeah.
that would be great. And I don't foresee Solo going face anytime soon.
See, I think the opposite. I think I would rather them stick with Solo
Really.
just because Fatu don't need.
Now, Fatu don't need him. He definitely doesn't. But I kind of like the idea of them as like their own faction.
Yeah, yeah, I get what
Their
you're
own
saying.
faction. Yeah, not like Tama Tonga and Tongaloa got to help him win like they would help everybody else.
Yeah,
But I like them as a faction. I think Solo might need it too to separate a little bit more. Like the Bloodline thing has been going on so long and he hasn't even had a Mania match. So maybe he needs a little bit of separation to establish himself a bit more. But Solo winning the belt from Fatu, I really thinking about it now. No matter how it happens, who else beats Fatu anyways? That's a tough one.
the only other way, like with how Fatu's been booked, it would happen like one of three ways with how safely and strongly he's been booked.
Yeah.
Option one is Solo beats him with some cheat, whatever, propels the Fatu Solo story. Option two would be they're in a multi-person match
Yeah.
and he loses without being pinned. And option three is he doesn't get beat Stephanie Becerra style. He
Yeah.
goes for the world title and he vacates the mid-card title.
Yeah.
And that goes to a tournament winner or a whatever, battle
Yeah.
royal, whatever. Like that really feels like the only three options right now that make sense anytime soon. I don't think he's gonna hold it for like 600 days.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what are your options?
Yeah, I guess there is only so many options. I mean, regarding Solo again, man, I can't rule him out for Money in the Bank this year. I don't think the fans are
Yeah.
gonna like that one.
Oh, fuck him.
But here's
Do
the
it.
point. You're not supposed to. That's the point of a heel winning. You're not supposed to like it. Solo might be, I'm not gonna sit here and name all the names, but he's got to be top five, maybe.
You know what? Let's
In chance of winning the Money in the Bank,
we've hit a few names already on like who's likely to
win the title.
win titles.
I have one more name I wanted to mention real quick.
Okay, before you do, I'll
Yeah.
say once
Yeah.
we wrap on that,
We'll talk Money in the Bank.
we'll talk Money in the Bank
Yeah,
because I'm
yeah.
sure by the time this comes out, we're not going to be too far away from Money in the
No,
Bank
so
coming out.
it'll be, yeah.
So
We'll
we'll
talk.
give you, and this may even be the title. Who's the odds-on favorites to win Money in the Bank?
Well, my name that could win a championship might just win Money in the Bank. Karrion Cross, baby, deserves a championship.
See, yes, agree on the championship part.
I don't think he wins Money in the Bank.
I don't, but I'm trying to think like character-wise.
Yeah.
I'm a big advocate of Money in the Bank should be like every other year.
Yeah,
I feel like it's gotten oversaturated. Thank God they had Drew win it and immediately cash in.
Yeah.
Tiffy, held it long enough, in my opinion. It
Yeah.
wasn't like the story of her holding it was bad. I could do without Money in the Bank for a bit.
Yeah.
Carrion might be one of the perfect people to have it and you kind of forget he has it
Yeah,
because his stories are so, people are going to show this, but they're so intricate into like the personalities of his opponent, and they're so promo based
yeah,
and all that stuff that maybe throughout his time holding the Money in the Bank, he is harping on whoever that champion is. And with how we've seen his stories go, where eventually that person turns or whatever, he causes that moment of snap like he saw coming.
yeah,
And that opens up the opportunity for him to cash in because that person becomes vulnerable or whatever it may be.
yeah,
So, as crazy as it sounds, Carrion might be like a sneaky, great holder
yeah.
of the Money in the Bank
I
for
agree.
a story.
I do agree. I don't know if he'll be the guy they choose to actually win it, but I think he would be a great holder of the briefcase. I think there's a lot of avenues you can go there with somebody like Karrion Cross. And it is just again about how intricate he is in promos and
For sure.
with other characters and everything. A lot of stories can be made in how he can cash in that briefcase. He is a guy that I would like to see hold it for a while. I do agree Money in the Bank's a little oversaturated. I think we are hitting another Money in the Bank this year where I want to see quick cash-ins.
Agreed.
I don't want a Money in the Bank holder for 8 months. Men and women, I would like to see both cashed in rather soon. I used to not be a fan of this, but as the Money in the Bank becomes more oversaturated, you kind of need to do this sometimes. You need to have Drew cash in immediately and lose.
Yes.
You also need to have people cash in RVD style. You know, I'm cashing in for the match at SummerSlam. No need for a tournament for a number one contender. I'm the number one contender. Here's my contract. That's the briefcase. There's your SummerSlam match. It works. I know fans aren't going to love that all the way around, but it the Money in the Bank books them into a corner sometimes. And think about it. Tiffy's been great. It booked them into a corner this year, even with Tiffy, where Tiffy probably should have been the Rumble winner. Probably should have won the title from Charlotte at WrestleMania. I know Charlotte was injured, so she didn't have it anyways. Realistically, she should have won it from Nia at WrestleMania
Yeah.
this year, you know? So it books them into a corner a little bit. I remember when Drew lost it, people were shitting on that, and we were happy as could be. Love Drew McIntyre, want him to be world champion, but you just don't need the Money in the Bank every year at this point. Biggest point to it, God, put it back at WrestleMania. Do the match at WrestleMania
Yeah, I don't
again.
think they ever
I
will
don't think they
too.
ever
And
will.
like it's just it's
The
gotten too
PLE of its
big.
own is too big. Yeah,
Yeah. I do think we're probably due for a face Money in the Bank men's winner.
agreed.
And going off of your RVD style,
Yeah,
again, the time we're recording this, people are probably gonna hate this too.
okay, let's hear it.
But I could very well see the story going. Cena beats Cody.
Yeah,
They make Cody's life a living hell.
yeah,
Cody is in the Money in the Bank and wins Money in the Bank. And Cena's got the title in Hollywood.
yeah,
Cena's traveling around with it. He shows up, here and there, but he's not wrestling as much as he should be.
yeah,
Cody's saying, you know what? I'm cashing in just like you did and lost.
yeah,
I'm calling my shot. SummerSlam main
yeah,
event.
yeah,
You and me. There's no running. There's no hiding.
yeah,
You think I'm a coward? You think I'm not that guy? I am calling my shot. I want you. I got you. That's going to be it. Now, I don't think that's going to happen.
Shit, it might.
We're strictly fantasy booking, but that would almost help the getting away from the Money in the Bank again
Yeah,
for a
it would.
year to kind of build the allure for the following, where it's like a Carmelo Hayes who holds it and
Yep.
holds it for a while and they
Mhm.
tease cash-ins, whatever. Because it's the same thing, like, oh, he won it and he's calling his shot and it's the main event of this show. Book it right there. I can already see his logo all over that briefcase and it's selling like hotcakes and stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that. Like
yeah.
I can already see that happening. Him coming out with the suit. Like I could
I
see
can
it,
envision it.
see the action figure as we're talking. But it wouldn't feel like a Money in the Bank winner because Cody probably would have just fought for the championship again at SummerSlam. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like it
yeah.
it kind of kills two birds with one stone and scratches the itch for me that we don't have a Money in the Bank for a little bit longer.
Yeah, I do agree. The Money in the Bank again. I hope they come up with a way to get rid of it pretty quickly for both the men and women. The Cody option is honestly not unlikely. I don't think that's impossible at all, especially under the small idea that WWE loves trilogies.
Loves them.
Loves trilogies. And if you're going to run Cody Cena at Mania, let's say Cena wins again. This is before night two. Cena wins. Cody can't get the match back. Rock won't grant it. Cena won't give it. Has to find a way. Wins the Money in the Bank. RVD style cashes in. Gets beat again. Has to find his way to get the match again. Ends up end of the year doing it, getting the big babyface win over heel John Cena. I can definitely see it happening. I do think there's a name that leads the pack on most likely to win the men's Money in the Bank this year. And I think this is what most of the fans want. I'm okay with it. I like it. I love it. I think there's other options though too, but I think LA Knight is up
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
LA
that's a
Knight
good
is
one.
very likely to win it, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
Especially
that's a
after
good
the
show.
US title loss, had two title runs, maybe a holdover feud or two until Money in the Bank. He's probably leading the pack for me.
That's a good shout. I could definitely see that, and he would fit that bill of a face as well.
Yes.
Because I do think they're gonna go with a face this time. I mean, the past winners, Drew was a heel, Priest was a
Yeah.
heel. Who won it before Priest? I can't even remember
Off
that
the top of my
far.
head, I can't remember. Yeah.
I can't even think that
Yeah, off the
far.
top of my head, yeah, I can't tell
Well,
you.
you're saying it though.
Yeah.
To me, Money in the Bank is more of a heel
Winner. Yeah.
winner.
Yeah.
It fits. It's much easier to book a heel Money in the Bank winner than a face Money in the Bank.
It also, when you book more heels winning it, it makes that face big time cash in so much more special.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. And you end up having sometimes too where a Damian Priest is clearly turning face. So even though he won it as a
Oh,
heel,
Theory was Priest.
woo,
Yeah.
that's another heel.
That's why we didn't remember.
Yeah. Who was before Theory? Rock?
Big E.
Big E. All right. So that was the last big no pun intended. No pun intended. The
Yeah.
last baby face. So that was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I
It's been a
mean,
while.
you're probably due for.
I
And
mean,
he
let's
he
just.
kind of called his shot too, which
Yeah, that was like, listen, I
that was not as good.
absolutely adore Big E. I want the best for Big E. Would love to see him return. Wanted him to be champion so bad. It is up there for my least favorite cash-ins of all time.
Him winning the title is
It's a
separate.
great moment.
It's like it. We have to separate the two. The actual cash in itself,
Yeah.
compared to when the hand hit the mat for a third time, like
Yeah.
may as well be two separate things.
Yeah, it's they could have just done it so much better with Big E, but it is what it is. Again, that was the tail end of that Vince regime where it was madhouse, whatever. It is what it is. But, just thinking faces right now that have potential to win. LA Knight and LA Knight. I don't know if
Styles,
stop. Yeah, maybe Styles, which Styles is absolutely a guy that deserves another run with a man championship before his career is over because he ain't got too much time left. But when it comes to faces, like I don't know.
Punk for a third time.
Shit, that would be great, actually. I'm not gonna lie, but I still want Punk Cena to run it back and Money in the Bank. I think
True.
we got to do that. But I don't know. I really don't know if I can name another like face off the top of my head that is maybe on the level of LA Knight and should win it. I think there is, as usual, there's more heels right now. Bronson Reed could come back and win it.
Yeah,
For
I
all I know.
like Braun Breaker is kind of a tweener.
Yeah,
But
Braun
like
Breaker could do it.
he
Yeah,
may fall into that, but
yeah.
he's a guy that like I don't want him to
He
win
doesn't
Money in
need
the
it.
Bank.
He doesn't need it.
Yeah, I'd rather him just win the title.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of guys heels and face that don't need the contract or maybe the Rumble win is bigger, but some guys don't even need the Rumble win, like there's a different way you can go about it for a guy like Braun Breaker. There's a lot of great talent that like it's too early for Penta and Phoenix to be winning it and things like that, in my opinion. But LA Knight really, maybe I'm drawing a blank on faces, but that's the only name I can really think of right now.
You know the fear, right?
What's the fear?
The fear that we've had a few times in this match as well.
Let's hear it.
The fear is they have Logan Paul win this fucking match.
Oh my God.
It is like it is just not impossible. Like you can't put it past happening.
No, you can't. You can't. And listen, Logan Paul's great in the ring, man. He's great on the mic. Will he be a world champion one day?
Fucking mind.
He's gonna be. He's gonna be. He absolutely is gonna be. That's like history. Whether people want to like it or agree. Again, this is where people have to like separate maybe their distaste for somebody and like somebody's ability and talent and what they do for the company. Logan Paul might not be your favorite. You might not like the guy himself, but him with a world title is gonna bring in views. It's gonna bring in money. It's gonna get heads turning, social media views, everything. If they're gonna strike on that one day, I really hope. And we're talking about them kind of getting rid of the Money in the Bank, but I really hope they don't waste a moment like that on Logan Paul. They're gonna
The
fucking do it. God
the
damn it.
the internet might, I should say, the IWC
Yeah,
might explode if Logan won and cashed in on Jay. Like they would just be like, I hate either way, blah blah,
yeah,
blah. Like as
yeah,
if Jay doesn't fucking rule.
yeah.
Uh, that's something Triple H could possibly do just out of spite.
He could, and that's a funny thought though
And Jay
too,
still
because
win or some shit.
that would be funny. I would actually almost like that to happen in a way because so many fans are hating on Jay, shitting on Jay. But if Logan Paul won that and cashed in, they'd be fucking full blown Jay Uso fans day one ish.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that would be a funny world to look at. But Logan Paul definitely don't want him to win it. I gotta go with LA Knight this year. I'm not even saying that's the guy that I would like to see him win it, but I'm not like, oh, it's LA Knight's year. But I just don't know if there's anybody else that's really outside of your Cody prediction, really up there in the likelihood of winning it.
Yeah, the one name that before the Mania build
Yeah,
was thrown around a lot by fans. Again, if we're filming this a week or two later, it's probably easier to talk about this topic.
yeah,
But Dom Mysterio was like the one name that universally fans talked about, and it's
yeah.
almost like I don't want to say too obvious, but like too many people behind it. I kind of think back, even though he's heel, but I think back to 2 years ago when LA Knight was such an odds-on favorite, and people were so pissed about him potentially winning it, and Damian Priest wins it. Obviously, it worked out
Better than
like
people wanted it to.
better
Yeah,
than they wanted to. They wanted to hate it. I could see, Dom, it's almost better for him to just not be in the match
hmm
because so many fans are getting behind him that you don't want to turn him face yet. And like
yeah.
there's been like the cheers here and there. He's still so good as a heel and has so much as a heel that him winning the Money in the Bank it would get such a face reaction.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, you kind of got to ride out the Dom heel run for a little bit longer and let it become a little bit more of a natural turn. Again, pre-night two of WrestleMania, he might win the IC title. I would like to see him get an IC title run before he wins something like Money in the Bank too. He falls under that for me. But we've talked a lot about the men, and the men are hard to book this year, I guess, for Money in the Bank. There's only a couple names that really stand out. I don't know who you have with the women's. I have no idea, dude.
Nikki Bella?
No. That's a tough one.
Nikki Bella with a blonde wig? No, that is a tough one. And the triple threat world title match obviously hasn't happened, but you kind of start thinking too, like where does that story start leading to?
Yeah,
As I mentioned, the Cody Cena thing, like they very well could do that with a Rhea or Bianca or
yeah.
Io in this story as it trickles
Mhm.
out. I got one. If Bianca wins the title, Naomi Money in the Bank win, and Naomi cashes in on her old best pal and screws her over and takes her championship.
It's not impossible. Jade isn't impossible,
She's
but
not,
she doesn't
but
need it. She's
yeah,
she's one of those. She's like Braun Breaker doesn't need it. I see the women's Money in the Bank this year being maybe similar to your Cody booking, where like a main eventer is going to win it.
yeah.
It's not going to be the newcomer Tiffany winning. It's going to be if Bianca loses at WrestleMania, Bianca may win Money in the Bank this
It's
year.
not far fetched. Roxanne fucking comes up.
Yeah, Roxanne could win it. Yeah, she's probably the one that's like leading the pack of like newcomers to win it.
Yeah,
But here's the thing though, the women have big card titles now. So what are you
good
gonna do?
point.
Do you start establishing these women with, mid card title runs and stuff before you push them all to the championship? Tiffany, world heavyweight champion, won the belt. She's gonna lose the belt eventually. She's kind of done it all at that point, right? Like the US title, IC title, you still want those accolades, but it's not as big as that initial world title when she had. I guess we got to still see how this world title match plays out. And, as we get a little sooner to Money in the Bank, it'll be easier to book out. But for the women, I really am at a loss. That's a tough one this year.
Yeah, I'm just like running through them in my head.
I do think this will be. the first failed women's cash-in though too.
We're due for that.
We are due for that, yes. Which I mean, if you're gonna fail a cash-in, I'm not saying I want this person to fail it, but Chelsea Green fits the bill of failing a cash-in.
She does.
Yeah.
She does, but oh, would they bitch about that
Oh my
online?
God.
Like we constantly are supporting Chelsea Green, but
Yeah.
like character wise,
Yeah, it fits the bill.
it
Yeah.
fits the bill
That's like the
perfectly.
perfect person to lose a cash-in, and that's different than like Cena losing his cash, like all like the
Yeah.
botched cash-in fails in the past, which there's a lot of. Chelsea Green losing the cash-in is story,
For
where
sure.
Braun Strowman losing it was an absolute waste, like it's story to have Chelsea Green lose it.
What about Charlotte winning? Getting a rematch against
Okay.
Tiffany.
Can she win it and cash it for every title though?
No, because she's got to leave a few for Natalia.
Oh, okay, then yes, of course.
Yeah.
Well, not to say that. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
You know what? You know what would be? Maybe this is just CTD or sick fuck. Sign me up for Nia winning it and taking the title right back from Tiffany.
Yeah, I guess I'm not opposed to that. Nia winning it is not a bad option, especially considering they had her losing. She's just been nowhere. Like maybe
Yeah.
they could do something a little bit more with her. Again, maybe if Roxanne does come up and win it. I think it's a little too soon for Roxanne. Again, she's like 23. Like she's got
Yeah.
time. You don't got to push her to the moon quite yet. Again, the women's rosters are so established now, and they're only getting more established. You can slowly build them. You can have Roxanne have feuds with somebody like Carmelo and Andrade did. You build Roxanne in a similar building Carmelo, and I think that's maybe better for her. I mean, honestly, I can't rule out Stephanie coming up and winning it or something,
Yeah.
or one of the bigger names like Jordan or somebody. But I don't know. The women are a little harder to book out as of right now. Maybe in the next coming weeks, we'll start to see a bigger picture for it. But if I had to go off the top of my head, I'm going to LA. And I guess I have to see the triple threat play out, but I think one of the people in this women's triple threat, are going to win the Money in the Bank.
I think that's very possible. If I had to, stamp it as we wrap things up, I would probably go LA as well, with honorable mention to Cody if my insane hypothetical happens, or they finally do make us all mad and have Logan win it.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna rock with Naomi.
Yeah.
I think, especially with this recent heel turn and how things have been clicking, even though she lost to Jade, which honestly losing before the Money in the Bank probably gives you better odds to win.
Yeah,
going
sure,
into
yeah,
it as like a notorious loser.
especially as a heel.
Yes, she's been kind of clicking. Like the new theme looks great. The new character, like her promos have been good. Like there's something there to where I wouldn't be shocked if in 3 months' time it's like, oh yeah, she's the one.
Yeah, I mean, we have said that in all likelihood, Rhea versus Bianca main events SummerSlam Night 1. But I can't turn down the idea that they run Bianca, Jade, Naomi triple threat at say SummerSlam for the championship.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Bianca, Jade, and that's how Naomi gets in, is with the cash in. I definitely can see a Naomi win. Not opposed to that, but I guess we got to see how it plays out. So much more to look forward to in the world of WWE and the world of C2 Wrestling. It's been an absolute blast. So much more content coming your guys' way. I just got to say, subscribe.
I just can't believe if you're watching right now at this point, if you haven't done the double click, sub, noties, then what the I need photographic proof that all 10 of your fingers are broken.
It's 2 clicks. It's not that hard.
You could probably do it with your wrist if you're on a big
You got toes. If your finger's broken, you got 10 toes.
Yeah. Go solo style. No kick pads, no shoes. Use your toes.
Do it.
Now. Oh my God.